What does your body feel like in zero gravity?
What inspires you to become an astronaut?
What exercise do you do, and do you sweat in space?
Would a yo-yo work in microgravity?
So it works.
And station, this is Houston. Are you ready for the event?
We are ready for the event.
All right, Champlain Valley School District. This is Mission Control Houston. Please call station for a voice check.
Station, this is Charlotte Central School in the Champlain Valley School District. How do you hear me?
Welcome to the International Space Station. We've got you loud and clear.
Scott and Drew, this is Jen Roth, the Charlotte co-principal, and I'm here in a gymnasium full of some excited middle school students, our family members, and some community members, and we are excited to have this incredible opportunity to talk to you. You look great on our big screen. Our first student is Thomas Murphy, our 6th grader.
Why did you choose to be an astronaut? And if you couldn't be an astronaut, what other job would you like to do?
Well, you know, it's not so much that I chose to be an astronaut, it's that I believed that I would become an astronaut, and I'm not really sure what I would have done had I not had this opportunity to fly into space. But I've always been interested in motorsports, and I like racing, so who knows, maybe I would have been a race car driver.
Okay.
What suggestions do you have for someone like me that wants to be an astronaut and work for NASA someday?
Well, it's very important to have a good academic background, to have a good education. So work hard in school and then find something that you like to study and something that you like to work on, and work really hard at it to be good at it.
What is your best memory so far from your time in space?
I would say one of my best memories from my time in space was during my first mission on the first spacewalk that I've ever done. At the time we were flying over Texas, and we were so high in altitude on that mission that I could actually see Michigan. And I currently live in Houston, Texas, but I'm formerly from Michigan, and I could see all the way across the country to the Great Lakes State, and it was just a beautiful sight, and it's one of the most impressionable memories that I've ever retained from any space flight.
Is there some ISS research that you think is going to help the future of mankind?
Well, all our research up here is designed to benefit humans, without a doubt. But some of the things that we're doing, just living here, we have to recover all of our water, and some of the technology that we've used to create our systems that do that are working on Earth right now in systems developed on Earth to create clean water. We're also do a lot of technology development in our robotics field, which has found its way into the medical field to do some very precise surgeries, such as in tumors in the brain, that have really helped the humans on Earth as well. And then we have some human research that we do too, centered around bone density loss, that's helping our elderly, and as we understand osteoporosis and learn how to treat it better.
Is construction of the ISS finished, or are there still some assembly projects planned for the future?
Well, that's a great question. Per the original plan, the construction of the ISS is complete. We actually completed it in 2011. And currently, there are plans to expand the ISS and add additional modules, and the Russians have plans to add a module on their section. But the ISS is really, for the most part, finished, and we expect it to be in this configuration until its final working days, and we expect that to be probably late in 2028 or sometime around then.
What was the most challenging thing for you to learn in preparation for this mission?
Well, believe it or not, it was Russian language, but it's okay because they say the first 10 years was the hardest.
We know that NASA is planning to land humans on Mars. Do you think we'll ever be able to create a civilization on another planet?
I absolutely think that we will be able to create another civilization on another planet. In fact, I think it's imperative for humans to develop the capability to do that. We have only one place to live right now, and that is Earth. And in the world that we work in, we call that single fault tolerant. That means if something bad or catastrophic happens to the Earth, the human species might not survive. So I think it's really important and critical for us to continue to explore space and find other places to live as a species.
What is your favorite piece of equipment on the ISS, and what does it do?
Well, I think my favorite equipment here is our water system. And what it does is it collects all of the water that comes from our bodies and from our systems and in the humidity and in the air, things like that, and it turns it into drinking water. And we have very clean drinking water. It's a really cool system. We couldn't live without it.
What are some benefits and challenges of living with the same people on the ISS for 6 months?
Well, one of the challenges is standing right next to me, and there's a couple more around here as well, and I'm a challenge for them. The benefit is that we get to experience other cultures, not only within the U.S., but around the world. We have a Japanese astronaut with us now, and also 2 Russians, and so that cultural diversity is important for us to learn how other people work and other people thrive, and we are able to take the benefits of those cultures and apply them to our own, and also share our cultures with them. The challenges, I think, for us, the main challenges for us being here and together is that we're all away from our families, and that's something that we talk about on a daily basis. But it's nice that we have folks that we live with here, and I don't think I'd want to do this alone. And so really, overall, it's a great benefit to have others with us to be together for these long periods of time.
Does each astronaut have specific projects they work on, or do all astronauts collaborate and work on each project?
Well, we have a lot of projects going on. At any time, we have 200 to 250 experiments going on, plus an assorted myriad of maintenance and operational things going on as well. We're all trained to do any of it, pretty much. And so we tend to work together as much as we can, but one day I could be working on Project A, and then tomorrow Drew will pick it back up and continue to work on Project A. So the answer is kind of yes to both sides of those questions.
How long do you sleep for at a time, and do you sleep in shifts?
Currently on the ISS, on the International Space Station, we do not sleep in shifts. We all go to bed about the same time. I generally sleep between 6 and 7 hours each night. My crew members, I think, do the same, some a little more, some a little bit less. The time that we operate on is called Greenwich Mean Time, which is basically the same time as London. And we go to sleep at about 9:30 each night, or at least that's when we're intended to go to sleep, and our wake-up time is 6 a.m.
How does microgravity affect your daily activities like sleeping or rinsing your toothbrush?
Well, sleeping in gravity is actually wonderful. It's very quiet. There's no pressure points, and it's we get a good night's sleep pretty much every night. But when you go to clean off your toothbrush, it can get a little hairy because of no gravity. And so, what we usually do is we'll squirt a little water. I'm using colored water here. We'll put it on the toothbrush. You see, I just dropped a drop of water there. I'm going to have to clean up later. And we take a wet cloth and we just kind of slosh it around and clean it up and get it all clean. And then we stick it back in the pouch.
What different materials are you experimenting with now in the ISS?
Well, that's a great question. Currently, we're doing some different experiments with material science, and some of that happens in what we call the SIR rack and the FUR rack, which are right next to me. And we have some experiments in the European modules as well that look at different material sciences. And so those experiments are happening all the time. We frequently change those out, and with the arrival of new cargo vehicles, we often see different experiments and different opportunities in those fields of research.
What do you think is the coolest experiment currently being conducted on the ISS?
That's the hardest question I'm going to get, because all the experiments up here are really cool and they're in so many different areas. But one of the cool things that we're doing, I'm a mechanical engineer and I've studied a little bit on the materials side, but we have an experiment called MISSY, and it's actually our material science platform that is outside in space off of the Japanese module, the GEM. And they have all kinds of materials out there, from fabric, they have composites, they have metals, and our scientists are studying the effects of radiation, big temperature swings, and being in the vacuum of space, so that we can make our materials not only stronger for space, but also stronger for people to use on Earth.
Have you been inside the beam module, and do you think this idea of an expandable module is a space station of the future?
Well, I don't know if it's will be the composition of the space stations of the future, but it's certainly a great idea. One of the challenges to getting to space is carrying mass and volume. And the nice thing about the beam expandable module is that it's made out of a heavy fabric, and it's collapsible, so that it takes up much less volume and it takes up much less mass, because it's not made out of heavy metals like all of our other structures. So it's a great idea. So far it's working out well. We are using it for some stowage locations right now, and in the future it's possible that many more modules will be made out of the same type of material and same type of design.
It must be pretty wild to live in a free fall situation with microgravity 24/7. Is there anything about it that you really enjoy, or aspects that make life much more difficult?
Well, yes, and the answer is kind of the same for both of your question there. It's really cool to be able to come out of bed in the morning and float and fly like Superman all the way through the stack right into the kitchen and plant your feet down and get your breakfast ready. But it's also a little difficult because our brains are trained to think as we were on Earth. And every once in a while when I get up in the morning, I'm a little awkward and I bump off the wall and I don't get my feet set right. And when I go to push on something, I'll end up going backwards instead of pushing what I want away from me. So it takes a little bit of adaptation and a little bit of thinking to make sure that you're thinking about the right reactions at the right time.
Sorry. What is your favorite view from the ISS?
Well, my favorite views are always the views when I'm looking down on what I consider home, and that includes Texas, parts of Michigan, and parts of Canada as well. I always like to look down on those areas and think about the people that are there, the people that have influenced me in my life, the people that have supported me and motivated me to reach my goals. So for me, the best views that I get out the window are the ones when I'm flying over what I consider to be home and family and friends.
We are studying the FLEX experiment, the flame extinguishment experiment. If there was a fire on the ISS, how would you extinguish it?
Well, the first thing we try to do is try to see what's going on there, and we will power down the equipment without a doubt, because it's probably coming from a power source. But we also have fire extinguishers, so we would use CO2 or water depending on what kind of fire we saw.
Have you been in any ISS emergency situations? What happened?
Fortunately, no. I have not been in any space station emergencies, nor have any of the crews in recent history. But we train for them all the time, and it's not uncommon for us to be woken up in the middle of the night due to an alarm. Luckily, it is always, to this point, knock on wood, has been a false alarm. But it's a great training for us, but because it sort of conditions us to a response that might happen in the middle of the night, and we immediately go into our training procedures, and the muscle memory kicks in, and we start executing those things that we learned by heart and learned well without reading procedure until we get to the point where we can start moving through procedures all at once. But we have what we call bold face, which means we need to have memorized response to certain for certain events, and we practice those on a regular basis.
Can you describe any experiments that you were involved with that might find cures for diseases on Earth?
Yes. So all of our experiments are research-driven, and we're not really specifically studying how to cure a single disease. We are trying to develop the research that the folks on Earth could use to use as part of their solutions to curing these diseases. And one of the things that we were just recently looking at in the last month or so is an experiment called metabolic tracking. And we looked at, we used bioluminescent cells and to see how they behave in microgravity. And depending on what they find out, we might be able to create more processes that are much more effective and much less expensive to do in microgravity, which would make more medicine available to more people on Earth at a cheaper price.
We are studying the ACME experiment, Advanced Combustion Microgravity Experiment, and it sounds like dangerous work. What is being explored on the combustion integrated rack?
Well, as you can imagine, the combustion integrated rack, which is right next to me, looks at different combustion processes, and we have different flame generators, basically different gases that we can input to look at the way flames react in microgravity environment. Cold flame? Yeah, cold flames. So essentially, all the processes involved with flames and different materials that are associated with those. And what's nice about the facility is it's all integrated in one rack. It's in a pressure vessel, so that we have any problems with it, all of that activity and work will be contained, so that it doesn't affect us outside in the environment that we need to keep supporting our own life support systems.
Is Robonaut on board the ISS right now? What type of work is it doing, and who gets to control it?
Actually, we just packed up Robonaut yesterday, and it will be back on Earth as soon as Dragon departs ISS. But on a good note, about a month and a half ago or 2 months ago, I did control a robot. Its name was Justin. It was located in Munich, and I operated it through an iPad and the internet and a satellite connection to the internet on the Earth. It was fantastic, and the team at Munich has been doing a great job with Justin, and it was really fun.
What is it like taking off on the Soyuz rocket? Is it different from what you experienced on the space shuttle?
Absolutely. It was very different from my experience on the space shuttle. The space shuttle was sort of like, I called it Mr. Toad's Wild Ride. It was very, almost violent, a lot of vibrations, extremely loud. Everything was shaking around me, and I could feel the spaceship sort of hunting around to try to understand which direction it was heading off into space. The Soyuz was once described to me as an electric glide rocket, kind of like maybe what you'd experience in an electric car versus a combustion engine car. Very smooth, very fast takeoff, really a small fraction of the horsepower to what the space shuttle had because it was so much smaller in size. So quite different rides, both very exciting, very exhilarating. We actually reached a higher G load on launch in the Soyuz ultimately than what we did on the space shuttle, but it was a much smoother ride to space.
Scott and Drew, you have been fantastic. Is there any final words you can give to our students here in Vermont who are inspired by today's session?
I just want to thank each and every one of you for doing the best that you can do in school, and for just being good people. You inspire us to do better every single day. Thank you for visiting us on the International Space Station, and find out what you love and do it as much as you can and be good at it. Thank you for having us.
Thank you very much.
Station, this is Houston ACR. That concludes the event.
And thank you to all participants from Champlain Valley School District. Station, we are now resuming operational audio communications.